All right, welcome to the webinar here, Create Your 2019 Purpose and Goals. We're going to be doing that today. So hopefully you are ready with the ability to take notes and to do some thinking, to create that purpose. We're going to do that real soon here, and then we're going to end with creating some goals. And I'm also going to share with you my kind of the way I view an operating system for life called an alignment operating system that I've used to help many clients set goals and live out their purpose, and whether that be through work, through family, through life, through fun. It's all about aligning your activities and your relationships and everything to your purpose. So I'm going to cover that real quick too. So let's get right to it. First of all, just want to introduce this concept to you. If you haven't already heard of the Johari window, there's these 4 quadrants that are based on things that you know about yourself and things you don't, and also things that others know about you and things others don't. And you can see over here on the top left, there's the open and transparent area that's known to self and known to others. And sort of the goal is to be, well, at least for some of us, is to be more and more transparent as possible and be open and transparent and authentic and vulnerable in our relationships. And that is the goal for a lot of us. But then there's other areas that we don't know about, like our blind spot. There's this area behind me I don't see. Unless somebody else points it out to me, I can't see the spot behind my head. That's the blind spot. And so that's figuratively. In real, the way this really plays out is I'm not aware that every time somebody brings up something, I react in a certain way, and I could use a friend or a coach to help me see that. And then there's the hidden, what I like to call masks, or what Carl Jung calls masks. Masks are what we show to people. So if I show you my mask, but I don't show you my real self, my transparent self, I'm showing you my mask, and that's what I want you to see. So it's known to me, but I hide it from you with this mask. And the goal, again, if we want to be transparent, is to remove the mask. And then there's that area Carl Jung calls a shadow, the unknown to me and the unknown to you. It hasn't been explored. And the way to move forward in these areas is to, for that blind spot, ask, solicit feedback, and get some self-discovery. Work with an accountability partner, work with a coach, work with a mastermind group, people that'll be honest and love you enough to show you your blind spot. In the hidden area, the mask area, the solution is to tell others and do self-disclosure and exposure, especially in your close relationships. We want to be open and transparent, especially in our intimate relationships. And then that unknown area, the shadow, is self-discovery, is shared discovery, and looking inward. And it can really help in a close relationship or intimate relationship to explore the shadow. There's stuff in the shadow. The shadow is those things that from an early age we've repressed or we've hidden. And so deep in our subconscious, they're there, but consciously we're not aware. So if you can bring some of the stuff from the subconscious to the conscious, that can be helpful. One of the ways that this can be done is to look at areas of shame. Why is there shame there? Shame is a clue that something's being repressed. So that's not the purpose of today's discussion, but I wanted to show this, start out with this to I guess, give the idea that part of what we're doing here is some discovery, some self-discovery. And I've got some exercises here, particularly in the purpose area, to help you do some self-discovery. But before we do the purpose statement, let's talk about this idea of an alignment operating system, or alignment OS, alignment operating system. And I've taken this from a different presentation that I do, but I thought it was applicable to the 2019 goal setting, because if you can align everything in your life, your relationships, your priorities, your activities, the things that are important to you, to your purpose, not only does that eliminate stress and anxiety, it opens you up to your greatest potential, but also it's where most fulfillment comes from. Most joy and peace comes from being in alignment with your true self, with your core, with your purpose, and with your specific assignment in that purpose. So my goal would be that through this, that you would discover a little bit more about who you are, and be able to start to put some goals and action steps towards aligning your life to that. So let's start with this foundational idea of alignment operating system. So the overview is how to discover your purpose and live out your greatest potential, which is the fruit of proper alignment. How to align everything in your life to your purpose. How to integrate life, relationships, business, family, fun, faith into that purpose. And how to have real peace even in seasons of challenge and adversity. So again, this is a program, alignment operating system, that I would expand on in other areas. But for here, I just want to give you a brief overview. So obviously, alignment in its most basic form is the fastest way to get from point A to point B. If point A is your beginning and point B is your ending, the line between A and B would be the perfect execution of living out your purpose on the earth. All right, so nobody's going to do a perfect execution. There's squiggly lines, there's ups and downs, but the idea of alignment is to stay as close to that line as possible. It's impossible to stay on it all the time completely. That's where we end up with stress, anxiety, sleepless nights. But as long as we're on that line, we're going to be in the state of joy and peace. And no matter what's going on around us, could be complete chaos. If we're right in the middle of our purpose, in that chaos, we'll experience joy and peace. So that's alignment. What it looks like if you're in alignment, there's two kinds of activities. You can only control the seed planting activities. If you think about a farmer metaphor, farmers can only control what they plant, and the harvesting has so much to do with the weather and the pests of the time of that season. So we focus on seed planting. In alignment, seed planting work is easy. It's energizing. You feel like you're on purpose. Things multiply, like a little bit of effort multiplies into big results. It can be challenging. It actually is challenging because we live best when we're feeling challenged. Otherwise, we're bored. And it leads to personal growth. If we're out of alignment, the seed planting activity is hard. Like, this is just draining. I feel like I'm sacrificing unnecessarily. You can have sacrifice when you're in alignment, but it has a huge return on investment, that multiplication. But it feels completely unrewarding when you're out of alignment. So what does that lead to out of alignment? Bad relationships, bad habits, fruitlessness, stress, anxiety, sleepless nights. Success without peace or success without fulfillment isn't true success, right? So that's out of alignment. But if you're in alignment, the alignment seed planting leads to fulfillment, wealth, success, true success with fulfillment, and peace and joy. So that's the goal. We want to have 2019 be the best year ever. And if that's going to happen, I mean, maybe last year you set some goals and you achieved them, but they didn't ultimately get that fulfillment. This would be the answer to that, if that's where you found yourself, getting to alignment. So this is intentionality quadrants. What you can only control what you are intentional about. Be intentional about seed planting in alignment. Okay, so what is this? And if I was in a group setting, I would have a discussion, but people always get it. Some people say it's a clock and some people say it's art. Both are right. And But then we ask, what is this truly? How do we know what it truly is? And the way we know is by its design. So part of the alignment operating system is looking at inward at your design. Again, that Johari window that we looked at, we want to explore the areas that are unknown to ourselves. Those are clues to our design. We know about some things, but there's some things we don't know about. We need to look inward to really know our design. This clock is a clock because it's designed. It has the hour hand and the minute hand. It's got indicators for the time, the 12, 3, 6, 9 there. Those are indicators of the time and the hands. That design is clearly a clock. Now, it's a very beautiful, ornate clock, and so it is art. But if a clock is not telling its time, if the batteries are out of that clock, it will tell the time twice a day, right? AM and PM, 1 minute, for 1 minute, twice a day, it'll tell the correct time. But the rest of the time, it's out of alignment. It's acting like art when it's meant to be a clock. So the way I look at discovering purpose and design is look at, you look from a creator perspective. Who's your creator? The designer had something in mind when the designer made that unique cocktail of everything that is you. So your gifts, skills, and abilities. What are you good at? So, excuse me. So we always want to start with that higher power, with God, with your source, your creator, whatever that is for you. And we need to be connected to that higher power. And that's a whole nother thing to talk about, but how to be connected to that higher power. But we want to be connected to source. And from there, I mean, no matter what religion or philosophy you look at around the world, all philosophies look outside of ourself for that power, for that source. We can't generate our own energy. We can expand our own energy, but we look outside. We look to a source for new energy. And so from that outside source, we want to discover our design with the assumption that there is a designer, there's creator. And the design points to purpose, just like the clock. The clock is clearly designed for a purpose of telling the time. So if we look at our design, we'll know our purpose. And from your purpose, your assignment is, your purpose is kind of bigger. Your assignment is for this moment. And the moment could be this next hour. It could be this next season of life. But your assignment is connected to your purpose. And out of that, you align everything. So we look at agreement to that outside perspective. Not everybody agrees with that there's an outside perspective. So my theory is you have to agree with that first for this to make any sense, and then accept it. Accept that you're designed. If you are designed to be a clock, but you are acting like art, you're living as art, first step is accept, okay, yeah, I'm a clock, and then start acting like that. And then aligning your life to that. And my theory here with the alignment operating system is that if you align everything to that design, that you'll have true peace and joy and fruitfulness and fulfillment. So that's the overview there. So let's move into developing a purpose statement. So again, there's a lot more to the alignment operating system. I want to move into developing a purpose. So that's what we're here for. Having 2019 be the best year ever, we need to have a clear purpose and clear goals. And we're even going to get guiding principles out of this. Hopefully we'll have enough time for all that. So here's a little bit about the exercise purpose, develop a purpose statement. Your purpose is discovered in what inspires you and moves you to pay greater attention. So whatever you pay greater attention to grows. It energizes and drives you with passion from within. So if you are focused on something that drives you, the passion comes. It gets energized. You get energized. And the purpose grows in that. Ways you organize yourself in accordance with the world. Again, that goes back to alignment. Your purpose attracts opportunities based on your beliefs about what you love, who you are, your gifts and talents. And so we're going to look at that in this exercise. And your purpose follows specific patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions. And if you've heard me talk about other things, you know I'm always looking at thoughts, feelings, and actions and what we can control. So here's the example before I have you do your own purpose statement. Step 1, again, we look at what I love, what I am, and what I'd like to possess. So in this example of Sally, Sally says, I love beautifying my surroundings. I love makeovers. I love being around people. I am determined. I am enthusiastic. I am always learning. Step 3 is I would like to possess more abundance, a connection, strong family values. So my advice here is when you're doing this exercise, don't overthink it. Again, we're looking for clues about your design. And when we looked at the clock, it was obvious. We just looked at a few details and all of a sudden we know, okay, this was designed to be a clock. It looks like art, but its really purpose is to be a clock. And so I don't want you to overthink it, just like we did in the clock. I want you to just answer these questions. You know, the desires of your heart are placed there by your creator, by your design. So if you just look inward, find a place of peace, find a meditative state, and breathe and close your eyes and look inward and look at the answer of what I love, who am I, and what would I like to possess. And that will lead to something like this, a purpose statement. So in this case, Sally's example, going through those steps of the bullet points of I love, I am, I would like to possess, the purpose statement comes out. I love to be surrounded by beauty, which includes helping people make over their life for success. I am a determined and enthusiastic person who is devoted to learning and growing. And you see how those keywords came out of step 1 and 2. And then step 3, I possess the ability to enhance my family's abundance and live a life of great joy. My purpose is to be a life coach, makeover artist, to help the world be creative in living. So you can see that it develops into something a little bit more fluffy from the bullet points, a little bit more creative writing. And that's something that you hold on to. The purpose statement is what you grab onto that guides you from that point on. So do this exercise. I'm going to give some time here. Well, not too much time because you can pause the video here. And we're going to go into your own exercise. But first, having a clear statement of purpose can be the greatest driver of innovation, the best way to ensure alignment and leave a legacy. Defining a purpose is essential to success in all areas we participate, including personal and professional. This statement of purpose will clarify our calling in life to effective work with others. So I want you to complete the 4 steps that I just showed you with Sally's example to discover your connection to your purpose in one area. And you can go back and do this multiple times. I recently just did this myself in the area of parenting and family. And I've never done that before. I've always thought about a purpose statement. I work with businesses, so I oftentimes think about a purpose statement for a business. And then sometimes for entrepreneurs, I work on their purpose statement for their business and life. But I've never done it with somebody or myself until just recently, picking one little area. So I did the parenting and family, and I came up with a great motivating purpose statement. And I realized this is really what my purpose is in my family. And then I can align, out of that came some goals, and I can align some activities to this purpose. So this is a very powerful exercise. So first of all, pick one of these areas. Which area do you want to set up a purpose statement for? And again, just pick one, because you can come back and do it again with a different area. You can come back and do all these areas, multiple times. You can come back and do this. But for now, why don't you pick just one? Is it life? Is it love or romance? Is it a different relationship? Is it spirituality? Is it your education? Is it like me, the parenting and family? Is it your career? Is it entrepreneurship and business? So pick one, and then we look at these. When you think about that one area, step one, I love. Step two, I am. Step three, I would like to possess. So take as much time as you need, pause the video, and respond to I love. If you are thinking about your romantic relationship, what comes to mind? If you're thinking about your career, it would be an entirely different response to I love. Or if you were thinking about your education and growth, personal growth, you would think about an entirely different answer. You would have different responses for I love. So go ahead, write down at least a few things for I love. And then step two, write down a few things for I am, for that one area of your life. And then step three, I would like to possess. And you have at least a few responses for that. And then step four, you're going to write out your purpose statement. So this will take some time to craft, but truly this can be done in less than 15 minutes, even 10 minutes, if you're in the right state, which I suggest. Meditative, a place of peace, don't feel rushed. And you can get this, you can knock this out pretty quick. But it's not to be quick. You know, allow yourself plenty of time to craft that purpose statement because it's important. If you get a rough draft down, that's good enough for now. But then come back and add to it, massage it, you know, keep reviewing it daily for a few days or even a week or a month until you have it crafted exactly the way you want. But for today's exercise, this is good if you can just get a rough draft. So pause and do what you need. We're going to move on. So just a few tough questions. Again, this alignment operating system, aligning everything in your life to that purpose. The question is never about what to do. It's about who you are. I have this question come up all the time as a coach. A lot of times of entrepreneurs, you know, they're saying, you know, Scott, I don't know what to do. I got this situation, I got this employee and I don't know what to do, or I got this spouse, I got this relationship, I don't know what to do. And I always go back to, let's look at who you are. What's your design? Your design tells you what to do. Again, the clock, once you look at the design and you realize what it was made for, it's what to do is tell time. It's move the hand 1 second at a time. What to do always comes out of who you are. And once you figure out who you are, how do you navigate the waters of life? So that is another question, because headspace wise, you might get the alignment operating system, but it's one thing to understand it, it's another thing to live it out. So I want to go over that here briefly, and how to integrate your life into your purpose and assignment, how to actually do that. When the rubber meets the road, there's a metaphor I like to use that helps people I've worked with, helps me kind of live that operating system out. Again, when the rubber meets the road, when you actually apply this idea to life. And this is the analogy. I pictured myself in an open ocean, and I'll even walk my clients through this exercise. Picture yourself in an open ocean where there is nothing around. Like it's peaceful, not scary. It's calm and peaceful, but you look around and there's nothing, no visual cues anywhere. And if you're in that situation, it doesn't really matter which way you go, because obviously you're not just going to sit here and do nothing. You're going to start swimming towards something. You're looking for rescue. You're looking to get to dry ground. You're not a fish. You need to find, a boat or an island at some point. So, but with no visual cues, 360 degrees around, it really doesn't matter which way you start to go. If you choose to go that way, you have just as good odds of hitting something as if you go that way. It doesn't really matter because there's nothing to go on. Now, life is usually not like that, where there's nothing around to tell you where to go. Life is usually more like there's something. There's a boat right there. I can swim towards that boat. And so imagine if you had an open ocean and then all of a sudden you realize there's one thing right there. If you had 360 degrees of nothing but one area, one spot, one direction, there's a visual cue. That gives you some direction. That gives you some idea of which way to go. So if you start, you naturally start swimming towards that visual cue, because that would give you some direction. And life is like that. Life gives you clues. And I like how Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Because if you want to achieve something, look at somebody else who's already achieved it or achieved something like it and do what they've done. Because they've already made all the mistakes that it takes, because it's, any success comes with a lot of failure. So they've already experienced a lot of mistakes and then they figured it out. So you can reduce the number of errors and mistakes by following somebody successful, because success leaves clues, as Tony Robbins says. So usually life is like that. And usually there's not just one thing calling for your attention. Like this picture shows, there's a few things. So this picture shows there's three. There are three equal distant clues that could dictate my direction. So if I'm swimming from here, I could go there, there, or there. It doesn't really matter because they're all about the same. I might pick the catamaran because it looks a little bit more stable. But, life is like that. You have this opportunity for this job. You have this relationship over here, and the two of them don't seem to work together, don't seem to, it looks like that is pulling away from that, and vice versa. And then here's another thing right dead in the center. Life's usually like that. So it's hard to tell which opportunities to go for. It's not usually as simple as the clock analogy. There's usually several things. So there are more than one clue presenting itself at the same time, and it's best to focus on only a few. Yeah, it's okay to focus on more than one thing, but 1,000 things, not so much. When something else comes into view, notice it, but don't necessarily change direction. So here's a strategy that would work with the three boats, is you might go towards the middle. Because if you're not sure which one is going to pick you up or which one you would like to be a part of more, because as you get closer, you might notice, on that one, there's a certain vibe going on. There's a certain type of person there. And on that one, there's something that, I don't really resonate with that one. But you don't know until you get closer. So you might strategically, try to average out all three and move towards the center. But then as you do that, as you move closer to multiple opportunities, as you kind of multitask and say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to keep doing this, even though they seem to be opposing, something else comes on the view. And what the suggestion here is, notice it, but don't necessarily change direction. And that's what's called, when people change direction all the time, that's called, what's it called? It's called, it escapes me all of a sudden. But when people can't focus on one thing, they get stuck. They constantly changing directions and they can't figure out which way to go. And that's an issue. We want to be able to stay focused. So always watch out for distractions. So what about storms? Storms are obviously going to come. There's no avoiding it. There are always ups and downs in life. Life is cyclical. There's ups and downs in everything, economics, relationships, everything. So when storms come, they will come. Make sure you've not stepped out of alignment. So if a storm is presenting itself, sometimes that's self-induced. Sometimes it's because I've stepped out of alignment. But if I'm in alignment and there's a storm, then I can have peace and know that I'm anchored to my source, that I'm in the middle of my purpose. And that's why I was saying earlier, if you're in purpose, even if there's chaos around you, you can still have peace. And this work will keep you centered in the rough times. So the work we're doing here, even when the rough times come, you'll be centered. And that's a challenge for a lot of people who don't have the focus and clarity of their purpose. They get tossed with the wind, right? Why most people won't do this living in alignment thing? It requires faith. Obviously, it requires faith in something higher power than us, right? Also, they won't do it because they're not willing to risk losing whatever, fill in the blank. When you have unreasonable, optimistic faith in your purpose, in your career, in yourself, that requires letting go of some stability. It requires risk. So if you're not willing to risk, or if you say, what am I worried about losing? If you have a tight grip on a relationship, on a opportunity, on anything, on a material thing, if you have a tight grip on that thing, it could be a hindrance from living out this alignment to purpose. So have a open grip on everything, even relationships. We even tell married couples that you don't own that person. They are not your possession. They are a gift in your hands, and they are free to leave. And there is no guarantee. Your next heartbeat isn't even guaranteed. So there's no guarantee this person is going to stay with you. So have an open hand in everything, even that most close relationship. I mean, imagine thinking about that as for your child. I've gone through this process of trying to be not living with a fear of losing anything. And we had a scary situation with our kid, and I even had to be like, okay, I'm having an open hand with my child. And to me, that's like the toughest one to possibly fathom. Putting at risk is losing your child. But if you're afraid of losing something, anything, that will hold you back. And sometimes it just requires hitting rock bottom. You know, if you've hit rock bottom, you've got nothing to lose, it's easy to move forward in this stuff. But if you're at this very high level and you have too much to lose, it can be challenging to live out a true assignment. Like, imagine somebody has a great career, but they're completely unfulfilled. That's a tough situation because they can totally lose that stability. But if I've known people that have sacrificed, gave up their perfect, career. I know a guy who was a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and he wasn't fulfilled. He wanted to do entrepreneurship, so he gave it up, and he's a lot more fulfilled. Maybe, I don't know how if he's making as much money as he was, but it wasn't about the money for him. He's much more fulfilled now. And then judgment and ridicule. Sometimes, you and we'll talk about this in a little bit, your relationships, the people around you. There's this old adage that you're the sum or the average of the 10 closest people around you. And sometimes when you start stepping into this higher level of purpose, it threatens the people around you, and they'll come at you with judgment, ridicule, doubt, and sometimes you have to let those go. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. What keeps you out of alignment? What are the things, here's something I just want you to think about. What are the things you find to be distractions or temptations in your life? Because people often get tempted by those things that are more attractive, the path of least resistance or a quick fix. But if you can stay focused on what's the higher calling, what's that higher purpose, sometimes there's distractions and temptations that seem like easier to focus on than this purpose. So what are you afraid of losing? Talked about that. And who are you afraid of? Who might judge or ridicule you? So just think about those. Those are some good questions to ask, because if you're going to have the best 2019 ever, you got to assess this stuff and be willing to pay the price, because anytime there's huge success, there's always a price to pay. And it might be a person, it might be a thing, and it might be some kind of distraction or guilty pleasure that you have that you just, it's not serving you right now. So what are the things the price you might be needing to pay to get by it? And what do you have faith in? Because it requires extraordinary faith to be hugely successful, to have the best 2019, to have the best year ever. What do you have faith in? And it might just be your goals. It might be yourself. It might be your ability. It might be your God, whatever it is. The enemies in alignment are fear, doubt, and uncertainty. So if you feel fearful, what are you afraid of? That's why I kept asking that question. If you can assess that, if you can bring something into the light, it loses some power than when it's in the darkness and you can't see it and it's just there and it seems bigger than it is, but you take a real honest look at it and it's not so big. And you can also deal with it. I have people do this exercise sometimes where they I have them imagine that this fear is like a monkey on their back or a little demon. And it's so noisy and loud and it's annoying and it's been gripping into your shoulders for years sometimes. And I just have people imagine that it's not that powerful, because you really are so powerful when you realize who you are and your purpose on this planet. It has this little thing here, this little monkey on your back has no match to that. So I always have them imagine, visualize, grabbing that thing and like taking it, just like pounding the crap out of it and kicking it to the curb. And that represents fear, doubt, or uncertainty, whatever that is for you. Visualize it as a monkey that you can just pummel, and it's just this loud, noisy thing, but you can really defeat it. And then if it comes back, just kick it again. But once you've made that mental image and conquered it, it becomes less and less powerful over time. And then a poverty mentality. This is that I don't have enough resource. I don't have enough abundance. I don't have enough money. I can't afford to take that certification that's going to get me to that next level. When you are aligned to purpose, when you realize this is my purpose, I was created for this, there's nothing more important in your life than doing that, because true fulfillment and true success and true achievement comes out of living out that purpose fully. And then if you go and you say, okay, I'm going to live this purpose out, and the very first thing I have to do is go get a degree, or go get some education, or go get some credentials, or go, make these sales. And then all of a sudden you say, I can't afford to do the marketing for that. I can't afford to hire the help for that. I can't afford that education. I mean, let's go back a slide and what do you have faith in? You got to realize that poverty mentality is holding you back. How long have you been saying, I don't have enough? And if you are constantly saying, I don't have enough, you probably never will, right? So if that's where you've been, what if you changed it to, I have everything I need to fulfill the purpose in my life. I don't have enough for that extra meal out. I don't have enough for that coffee on the way to work, but I do have enough. I'm fully equipped and fully resourced to achieve everything I can with this purpose. I have no limitations when it comes to fulfilling this purpose. That's the abundance mentality that you need. And corruption and power, that's like the flip side. It's like this two-sided coin. You have, it's called the spirit of money, but one side is feeling poor. The other side of the coin is, greed, power, corruption. So either way, this spirit of money is something that you want to eliminate. Money's not bad, but the spirit of money can be evil. So reputation and social standing, yeah, you may have to sacrifice that, as I kind of already talked about. So let's go back to those relationship dials. This reputation and social standing, I picture each one of these big dials as a relationship, right? So over here I have my friend from high school. Over here I have my friend from college. Over here I have this work relationship, whatever. So each one of these dials, you want to identify, okay, here's the relationships in my life, and attach a dial to each one of them. And as I'm ready to live out my purpose and have the best 2019 ever, I need to turn up the volume on that relationship. What can I do to serve that person more? What can I do to create more relationship equity with that person? How can I make deposits into that relationship bank account? because I need to turn up the volume on that relationship. That relationship is aligning to my purpose. And then this relationship over here, this relationship has been there a long time, but it's holding me back. And maybe it's a long-time friend, and I don't feel right about just flipping the switch and saying, off with you. I never want to see you again. That's not necessarily healthy, but I could turn down the relationship. Maybe I've been spending way too much time with that person, and I just need to turn it down. And I can adjust that over time. Maybe for this first quarter, instead of meeting with them every week, I meet with them a couple times a month. And then next quarter, I turn it down to once every 3 months. So these dials, if you think about relationships as dials, and you are intentional about the ones that are serving you and are aligned to your purpose, and intentional about the ones that aren't, and starting to reduce those, and that can be a very powerful process. So I like to have this picture of relationship dial. So the exercise would be identify at least one relationship you intend to turn down, and identify the why. Why does that need to be dialed down? And then identify at least one relationship you intend to turn up. And why does that relationship need to be dialed up? And what are you hoping to achieve? And again, I always think about, you got to serve into those relationships. If there's somebody that you've identified that is the success that you want to be, but you don't have much of a relationship right now, you just have access, start by just, dripping on them and saying, okay, here I am. And what are you interested in? Read Dale Carnegie, the 7 Habits of High, or no, I'm sorry, at the How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the, all of those are good principles, how to win friends and influence people, but start dripping on them and finding out what they're interested in. And, being interested in them, that's going to build equity. And at some point, the law of reciprocity comes back to you, but serve those people. So we're going to move into goals now. And we are doing just right on time here. That thing I couldn't remember earlier? It was shiny object syndrome. Shiny objects. Oh, shiny objects. It's almost like the squirrel from the movie Up, the dog that is focused and all of a sudden sees a squirrel, but call it shiny object syndrome. So too bad I couldn't remember that earlier, but there it is, shiny object syndrome. All right, we're into SMART goals. So I know some of you have heard of SMART goals before, but pay attention. Being a business and relationship coach, I've been just had SMART goals, stuck into my head for the last 10 years. And I just reviewed it recently, and I still get more out of it. So stick with me. Maybe this will be a little bit different than the last time you looked at it, but really you get out of things what you put into them. So I want you to focus here for a minute and don't check out. I'm just going to go through SMART goals. And if you have never heard of SMART goals, it's going to be huge, powerful for you. But either way, so specific. We know that it's an acronym, by the way, SMART, S-M-A-R-T, SMART goals, specific. We want goals that are specific. So you want to be specific about what do you want. And these questions are here to help you. So we just figured out our purpose for a certain area of life. Now let's figure out the goals. When you think about the year 2019, what do you want? Is the goal clearly written with no ambivalence? What makes me determined to accomplish this goal? Tap into that determination. If your determination is a 10, I was talking to a client today who I said, where's your determination on a scale of 1 to 10? He said a 10. And I know when you're at a 10 determination, you can accomplish anything. Because even though there's hard things to do, and like I said, there's a price to pay to have huge achievement, when you have determination, you can do it. And then what legacy will you leave behind? What are the big things that you want to leave behind? What's the impact you want to make? Be specific. And each one of your goals needs to have a specific, what do you want? Measurable. How are you going to know if it's happening? There's the old adage, what gets measured gets done. So if it's not measurable, it won't get done. So what information do I need to measure progress? What are the indicators? What strategic targets will I establish as I progress toward my goal? And how will I know when it's accomplished? Great questions to be asking about each goal. If you do this for each one of your goals that you write down, let's say you have 5 to 10 goals for the year. If you have these answers, think through each one of these questions for each one of your goals, you will have high likelihood of achieving every one of them. Actionable. By the way, different people have different names for the SMART. That's why I want you to stick with this. This is just one. You might have heard other ones, but actionable is the one here. What first wise steps will I take? Action, action, action. How will I move forward for attaining my goal? And what motivating factor is needed to reach this goal? And what will I do to launch this goal today? So this is putting action. And I love these questions anytime because you can ask that every single day. What will I do today? Resource bound. So how much money am I willing to commit? This goes back to that, don't let poverty mentality keep you from living out your whole purpose. How much money am I willing to commit? How much will it cost me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? Because like I said, there's a price to pay for huge achievement. It's all sorts of things. Quantify it. What's it going to be? What knowledge, skills, tools, and abilities will I need to support my goal and goal attainment? And what else is needed to accomplish this goal? Who needs to be involved? Your relationships are a resource. If my wife and I, we always compare, we work on our goals separately, but we always compare and show each other because we want to support each other. And we want to know, I want to know how I can support her. And I'm a resource to her and she's to me. And then the T is time bound. So what are my timelines and deadlines? You got to know where that line in the sand is. You say, okay, I want to get this done by. So what's my completion date? Why is this the right time for this goal? Right now, why is this the right time for this goal? Or is it not? Is this a great, fantastic, specific, measurable, actionable, resource-bound goal, but now is not the right time because I've got multiple ships on my horizon. I've got multiple things vying for my attention, and I need to do this one, and this one before I do this one. Is it the right time? So write it down, but maybe it's not the right time to do it. Or you can still write it down and just say, okay, I'm going to do that next year. It's not for this year, it's for next year. And then what will I schedule today to reach my goal? And that kind of goes back to the actionable. All right, so those are SMART goals. Take a moment to write down each one of your goals and specifically around the purpose you just created, but also any other SMART goals you have for 2019. If 2019 is going to be the best year ever, what needs to happen in the area of, relationships, in the area of career, in the area of growth and education, in the area of spirituality, in the area of family, in all those areas, find at least 1 or 2 SMART goals. And then here's something else that we don't think about a lot when we're thinking about having the best year ever. But if you want to have the best year ever, and again, when the alignment operating system, when you want that rubber to meet the road, it's one thing to know it, but a harder thing to execute it. You got to have guiding principles, because guiding principles will help you live this stuff out. So goals are important. Goals tell you where you want to go. Those are those in that metaphor of being in the open ocean. The goal is, okay, I'm going to swim towards that, and I'm going to get there by then. That's a goal. It tells you where you're going. But a guiding principle tells you how to navigate along the way. Let me keep going. Know what you're going for. So goals do that, and then the guide, know how to go for it. Always know your one thing, and timing is essential. So we are going to break down goals, guiding principles, and the one thing right here. So the exercise here, write down your guiding principles for next year, write down your goals, and write down your one thing. So I like to start with the one thing. So you can see in this little illustration here, The one thing is. And there's a book called The One Thing. I just finally read The One Thing this past year, but I've been using the one thing concept for years and years. Um, and but I did find the book helpful. So you might check out the one thing. But what it is here, the one thing is that if I don't accomplish anything else for this year, in the next 12 months, if I don't accomplish anything else, if I accomplish this one thing, then everything else is going to fall into place. So it's like a high level, it's like the ultimate goal. So you might have 100 goals, you might have 5 goals, you might have 10 goals, but the one thing is the one thing that no matter what, I need this to happen. And I do this exercise that helps people get there. And I think about it's the invented future versus the predictable future. So the predictable future is more of the same. Like if you look back a year ago or 2 years ago compared to where you are now, how much has progressed? Well, whatever it's been, whether it's been a little bit or a lot, your predictable future is more of the same. But if you want to invent a crazy, amazing future, and again, if the idea is have the best year ever in 2019, think about if I could have an invented future, like if I knew that nothing could hold me back, I could achieve this. All the things that have been holding me back don't apply. I could achieve this one thing. I would have the best year ever. What would make all the difference in the world? Try to figure out that one thing that if nothing else were to be accomplished and I got this one thing, I would have a successful year. That is the litmus test. So come up with your primary main, the goal that drives all the other goals. That's your one thing. And the litmus test is, if I don't accomplish anything else, but I get this, will I be happy and fulfilled? And if you can say yes to that, then you know you've got it. Okay? So that's your one thing. You want that to be at the top. And by the way, what I learned about the one thing in the book is I always used it as a 12-month one thing. But what they do in the book is they talk about, well, if I'm going to achieve that one thing for the year, then the one thing for this month is. And if I'm going to achieve this one thing for this month, then the one thing for this week is. And then today, the one thing. And then the next hour, the one thing is. So the one thing ultimately boils down to, in the next however long time period, what's the most important thing I could be working on right now? It's actually synonymous with the top priority. So you can always boil it down to whatever time allotment you want to give it. But it's a great tool for a weekly planning too. So side note there. So guiding principles for the year. And these are more like, almost like spirit-driven principles. Like an example of a guiding principle is, I'm going to spend more time with my family. I'm going to create fun and adventure for my family. That would be a guiding principle. It's not a goal. I'm going to create more fun and adventure for my family isn't a goal. It's more like an intention. But if I know it's an intention that I want to guide how I live out my life on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, that's my guiding principles. And it's good to have, I think, at least 3, but no more than 5 guiding principles. So these are your pillars that you build your entire strategy on. I've got 3 pillars that I'm gonna create family fun and adventure. I'm gonna make my wife feel like the biggest priority in my life. I'm going to generate amazing customer value. Those would be examples of 3 guiding principles. So they have there's some tension between that. I got one for my family, one for my wife, and one for my customers. Well, I can't necessarily, sometimes those might be in conflict with each other, but they guide me. If I say, okay, I've got this thing to do and I'm going to order them, right? My number 1 is going to be my wife. My number 2 is going to be my family. My number 3 is going to be my customers. So that way I can say, okay, I've got a choice here. This thing, the rubber meets the road. I have this meeting and it conflicts with this family event. So in my priorities, my guiding principles tell me that I'm going to go with the family event because I know my guiding principles. I've thought through them, and my guiding principles tell me that I should do the family thing over the customer thing, even though that's a super important one too. But if something else comes along that doesn't conflict with family or wife and the customer thing is there, I'm going to do that every time because I know that's my guiding principle. So hopefully that makes sense. Identify at least 3 guiding principles and then write down your goals. And I like these to be all together. So you've got the one thing, your guiding principles. The one thing is that ultimate goal. The guiding principles are how you're going to live this stuff out, and the goals give you the direction on where you're going. So if you do that, you will have an amazing year. So that's about it we're about an hour here. Just a real quick plug. This is the Path to Fulfilling Life and Love. We do kind of everything. All our modules are based on attitude, awareness, acceptance, and then awakening attraction. That it's a part of a bigger picture program. But what we look at is attitude, awareness, and acceptance is the foundation of wholeness in a person. And once you find that wholeness, then you can have this kind of spiritual awakening, this transcendence. It transcends Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we go beyond meeting needs, and we start living out contribution and growth, and then attracting the things in life, the relationships, the abundance, whatever. This is kind of that path to fulfilling life and love that we kind of walk. It's our system that we use at Marriage Architects. So, and when it comes to individual fulfillment programs, it certainly applies as well as to couples. So that's sort of just something there. Anyway, so if you want more support on this stuff, if you have questions, here's my contact information. The company's called Marriage Architects, but we work with individuals a lot too. And we have counseling, we have relationship coaching, and of course we have business and life coaching as well. So don't hesitate to contact me. I'm Scott Landis at that phone number there or at the email there. I appreciate you attending and watching. I hope this is helpful for you, and I would love to take the next step with you. If you've needed some clarity on what you've worked on here as an individual, and you want to, get some help on that, get some clarity, I'd love to be in contact with you. If you want to take it to the next level and provide and install accountability and coaching to this best year ever, definitely do that with me as well. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you taking the time. Have a great day.